Good day, everybody. Again, we are here to tell story again about my wholesome vegan cookbook. And today, we're going to tell you a story about my journey of being a teacher and trying to convince people and trying to help people to eat more wholesome and all this. And and a lot of students actually, tell me that, teacher. Uh, you have been teaching a lot of recipes, but how come I never seen you teaching street foods like ang ku kueh, tree kueh, and fried carrot cake and all this. Yeah, and for those students who have been following me for quite a while now, they realize that a lot of recipes that I teach do not comprise of street food. And there must be a reason, right? Because a lot of street foods are really based on a lot of refined flour, a lot of refined sugar, a lot of refined kind of ingredients, and a lot of refined starch and all this. So that's why naturally they are not in my syllabus of teaching because my mission being a vegan teacher is really want people to eat healthy by cooking healthier recipes. And I don't mean that a lot of traditional recipes out there are not healthy, but there are some which are healthy, some are which are not healthy. But unfortunately, a lot of street foods are like not quite up to the mark by the concept of wholesome eating and all this. So I decided to kind of change my students' perspective by introducing them different kind of way of eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all this. So they enjoyed it very much. But then again, once in a while, they will still ask me, teacher, how we kind of miss that kind of a street food and all this. So can you teach us some kind of street food? I said, oh, see, I need some kind of research, to so-called healthier to make it healthier, to make the street food, excuse me, the street food healthier. So eventually, I tell you, I can't help. In the end, created this millet cake. All right. So the millet cake here. Yes, this is a millet cake. All right. All right. So this millet cake is a totally this millet cake is totally a new invention, a very very new invention in my recent so-called in my recent 10 years of teaching history. It is This is a very classical recipe, obviously and obviously created because of the request of the students and because of I insisted to so-called want them to continue eat whole food. So can you believe it or not? It doesn't look quite look quite similar to chi kueh, right? It's actually the concept of this is actually from chi kueh. Okay, the Singaporean will know what I mean by three kueh, but in Mandarin, I think in Malaysia is a wun zai go, the small little bowl kueh, basically, which is mainly made from rice and starch and all this white rice. Again, I don't encourage white rice. I spend a lot of time in my last 18 years trying to educate people to go brown rice. So I will usually not, unless necessary, introduce white rice in my teaching syllabus at all. So I didn't want them to go back to white rice. I don't want my students to have the excuse to take any white rice. So, but it is impossible to make brown rice chikway because it's too hard. So along the way, when I try to reinvent the chikway and it become more and more distorted and more deviated from the path, you can't believe it, seriously. So eventually it become a millet quay because um, I want something that naturally bind without starch. So eventually I resorted to millet, which can bind naturally as well. But the problem with millet, when you are using just pure millet itself, it binds very very harshly. It's very coarse. It's very tight. It become a semi meatball. It doesn't quite look like a cake basically. So kueh means cake lah basically. So in the end, I resorted to add in either flaxseed and chia seed. So the original recipe was with chia seed actually. So, but after adding chia seed, it makes the whole cake become a bit blackish and all this. So eventually it refined. I got it refined into making this into using the golden flaxseed, the yellow, the light yellow color one, not the brown one. So that eventually it come up with a very golden light yellow color. Yeah. So the top of it, which is the jam anyway, is is when I actually decided to think that let's not make it like a trigger anymore. I'm going to get laughed at with it. So I decided to deviate it further to make it more like a ang mo, more like a Western style kind of pudding, something like that already. So even I called it a millet cake, it's more like a millet pudding and all this, but except it's harder, it's not so soft and all this. But you can make it softer with a little bit more this flaxseed and slightly more water content in it. It's still not too bad actually. And so with this recipe developed already, so I decided not to call it chwee kueh or millet chwee kueh already. So it's far from the street food, but this is to tell you that it started from the request from my students. It's part of my growing path as a teacher as well to try to fulfill their requests and try to help students fulfill their needs. But when I fulfill their need, I want them to be healthy as well. And that's why I said this is a goodwill recipe as well. So the recipe here is very, very simple. Basically, just millet and with the base is actually millet with flaxseed and just blend together with water and then just steam it. And chwee kueh is steam, right? Yeah. And I always, tell people, try to avoid high temperature cooking, including high temperature baking, because that actually spoil the nutrients and create a lot of AGE, advanced glycation end product, which is actually very metabolically burdening for our body. So, the cream on top is basically made from a beetroot juice and made from this sesame paste. So that actually make because this millet cake itself, right, is basically tasteless. I added a bit of agave nectar to make it a little bit sweet base, but not very sweet. So if you were to eat it alone, you find it very, very bland because it's chwee kueh, right? Yeah. So it's meant to be bland if you eat it alone. So I decided to have a topping, but this topping would not be the traditional one because as I wanted to so-called throw away the shadow of chwee kueh already. So I had this sesame paste, basically a tahini spread on top, but I wanted to look more bright, the contrast. So I added the beetroot juice, and it turned out to be so vivid and so brightening, right? And imagine you have it for a breakfast, have it as an afternoon tea, your family will be so happy. All right, so I hope you already gotten a copy of my cookbook. If you haven't, WhatsApp me, PM me, and contact me so that I can send you the copy. And it is seriously not a cookbook to be missed. See you next time.